How's it going, everybody? So I just made an hour-long video basically just thinking out loud about my experience and observations with COVID-19, the pandemic, and basically how I personally was able to never get COVID symptoms, but be around all these people that had COVID, constantly doing jujitsu with all sorts of people from all different parts of the United States from the beginning of the pandemic until today. Hardly taking any precautions at all for my own safety against COVID, but only taking precautions, obviously at work and for the safety of my clients, being very, very careful not to spread anything to any of my clients, obviously. But for me, like especially the first couple months of the pandemic, trying to develop natural immunity, but never developing symptoms or any of that. Even having an outbreak in a gym that I was working at a certain period of time where some of the fighters I was training actually had COVID and had to take a vacation from the gym for like a whole week because they were basically dying of like severe symptoms because they were also weight cutting, so their immune system was down. And yet I still didn't have any severe symptoms, despite in a very short period of time having a positive test or whatever. But then very shortly after that, getting a negative test. So basically implying that I was at the end of the infection or whatever. Anyway, I had 12 different clients. Okay, well, yeah, watch that other video. It's an hour long, but I go into detail about the rationale behind my protocols and like why I believe what I do and my stance on vaccinations and everything else. And also just the flabbergastedness and the mind-bogglingness of our society and their susceptibility to emotional manipulation by the powers that be. No one was thinking critically. Anyway, watch that video if you want a more in-depth kind of philosophical approach to everything. But in this video, we'll get into the nitty-gritty. So look, yeah, I didn't get vaccinated. I don't remember last time I was vaccinated. It's probably been 20 years or so since I've had any vaccinations at all. And I used to get sick all the time until I started to actually take my health into my own hands. I used to get a respiratory infection like every month, before 2013. And then I started to take my health in my own hands, started to clean up my nutrition. And the closer I got to basically a carb-controlled protocol where I'm at now, mostly ketogenic carnivore, but I've since added, fruits and honey in small amounts to my diet. But the lower the glycemic load of my diet and the higher the amount of glycine from collagen or gelatin powder, which is what I started using, and animal protein in my diet, and the lower the amount of polyunsaturated omega-6 fats, the less and less I started to get sick over time. And I think glycine is a very important thing, for sure, because it serves as the building blocks and precursors to a lot of your body's endogenous antioxidant systems. It contributes to glutathione, superoxide dismutase, as well as anti-stress hormones. We're talking things that help to regulate the GABA neurotransmitter system, as well as NMDA receptor regulation, which directly lowers catecholamines, adrenaline, cortisol, and stuff like that, and promotes the healing, especially of structural tissues, like your connective tissues, for example, obviously, but also the immune system at large. So anyway, I had 12 clients who tested positive with COVID in 2020 because they had routine tests from their work at the time. 12 clients, and out of 12 clients who tested positive, only 2 of them had severe symptoms. So it's interesting. So that means 10 of my clients who tested positive with COVID during that time had zero negative symptoms outside of like some sniffles in their nose or some congestion in their throat. And they felt fine after like 3 days. But they were forced to quarantine for like 2 weeks or something, which was crazy. And it's the only correlation with those clients was that the 10 that had no negative symptoms, they were following my nutrition program and supplementing with my guidelines. And the supplements I recommended were very basic, and they were in alignment with the evidence I was following at that time. So I was following the evidence of what was making people susceptible to negative outcomes from COVID from the beginning. And I was posting regular research reviews. I posted a review like maybe once a month. And so the main things were vitamin D status. There was a intervention trial that popped up, I think, around like October of 2020 from South America that showed they basically administered intravenous vitamin D, the equivalent of like 50,000 IUs daily of an oral dose, to patients who were on the verge of going to the ICU. And I believe it was like within 4 to 7 days of that mega intravenous dosage of vitamin D, their symptoms improved so much that they were able to be sent home. And then there was a maintenance dose of the equivalent of like 20,000 IUs for another 2 weeks after that. And so that was pretty substantial. And I only was made aware of that because I was subscribed to Chris Masterjohn, PhD's fucking newsletter. Because he stayed on point with the research, and he released like a little guidebook on how to protect yourself from COVID that I had bought as well. It was a comprehensive review of all the supplements and all the factors involved that you need to really focus on that actually mattered for COVID symptoms. So while 95% of the population, they were focusing on things like masks, social distancing, washing your hands, and getting all the latest booster shots and things that the government recommended, and getting compensated with donuts and other free shit. If you remember, Krispy Kreme had that campaign for getting vaccinated. That was their safety strategy. Avoid the gyms because they're dangerous. Avoid your family because you don't want to spread COVID. Get a lot of masks, which, you know, it's very debatable whether those masks actually were effective or not. You know, eat the Krispy Kreme donuts that you get for free as compensation for getting vaccinated. And, forget about everything else. And then just, like, argue with your fate with, you know, the opposing viewpoint at all costs. Spend your whole day worrying about politics and being scared. That's what everyone else is focused on. You know, I remember there's a line outside my grocery store of like 1,000 people all smushed together outside, and it was raining, all wearing masks, and the masks were like getting all moist and stuff, breathing on each other, not social distancing in the line, because the grocery store had like a 20 people limit or something on the inside of the grocery store. So it's like you're fucking putting yourself at extreme risk in that line outside the grocery store for COVID, so you can supposedly protect yourself by social distancing inside the store. It made no sense at all. Anyway, that's a crap that everyone else is focusing on. Whereas for me, I had my clients eat a low glycemic load diet. They ate animal protein as a base for their diet, and exclusively lean animal proteins that were the lowest in polyunsaturated omega-6 fat, because most of my clients at the time were fat loss clients anyway. So that's going to help them, you know, gain muscle and lose body fat. And then the carbs that they were eating were mostly berries. That was a specific recommendation. And I also told them non-starchy vegetable like broccoli, cauliflower, all that is perfectly fine, even though we know watching my channel is not necessarily essential. Right? You don't need those things, but I allowed it. And so they're basically eating meat, you know, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, and a little bit of like freaking broccoli and cauliflower and spinach greens when they want to. avoiding all added fats, just in the context of COVID-19, polyunsaturated omega-6 fats. And they were supplementing with omega-3 fish oil, high in EPA. The prescription was, and I'm not prescribing anything, I'm not a doctor, 2,000 milligrams of EPA total from fish oil that includes DHA. That's the research-backed dosage. So they're taking that, and then vitamin D, 10,000 IUs a day. And then if they tested positive, they bumped it up to 20,000 IUs. And those are not recommendations or prescriptions, okay? These are just opinions based on research. So anyway, interestingly enough, the clients who are actually following that protocol that tested positive had zero negative symptoms. But then the ones that were having trouble staying consistent to my exercise routine and my nutrition program, it was only the ones who couldn't stay consistent with my nutrition program and whatnot that had negative symptoms. And then they tried coming back to me after they were cleared with COVID because they were scared shitless. And they had long COVID too. And it was hard for them to breathe. They were wheezing really hard and all sorts of stuff. So to me, that was a glaring indication that my protocol, it was working. Because even like these clients I had that were following my program and didn't have negative side effects, even though they were positively tested, they had a positive test, they were obese still, some of them. Some of them were dramatically overweight. They had a lot of body fat left to lose. We're talking, a 5'10" male who was like 260 pounds still. And some others that were more moderate, like 220 pounds or whatever at 5'10". So it's like obesity to me is only majorly correlated because of the shit that people are eating, right? So, yeah. So another thing is, for me, I also believe, at least in my experience, so I've been following that nutrition protocol for years before this COVID thing even happened. So I was been there, done that. My body's already primed for success. But like I said earlier in the video, I was not scared of COVID at all. I'm not scared of cancer, not scared of COVID, not scared of diabetes, because I've read the research through and through obsessively and follow the greatest researchers in the field on the subject for cancer research. That's Thomas C. Fried, who have clients that have reversed the condition, the C word. Ooh, which C word? COVID or cancer? Ooh. I know how to prevent it, put it into remission, so I'm not freaking scared of it. Okay? And so I believe in the terrain theory. So obviously germ theory is real. Germs are the cause of disease, but the health of your body, the health of the terrain, the soil, if it's robust enough, then the pathogen can't take root. So I did my best to fortify endogenous antioxidant production, glutathione, superoxide dismutase, and a supplement that freaking the government was trying to ban during COVID, N-acetylcysteine. Okay, it's a precursor to glutathione. It should be no surprise why they tried to ban it. It is a direct precursor to glutathione, and there's research showing it dramatically improved outcomes in the flu and other respiratory illness. And it has it's a miracle supplement for so many things. Drug addiction, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and, pharmaceutical drug overdose, all sorts of things. And so mechanistically, as well as based on the intervention trials on other severe respiratory illness, show pretty clearly that N-acetylcysteine could be used as a very powerful therapeutic thing to, overcome COVID. So anyway, all of this to me, and then all of the factors strongly associated with severe outcomes. We're talking smoking, we're talking about high blood glucose levels, insulin sensitivity, diabetes, and then obesity as well. Usually the things that contribute to obesity is an overconsumption of hyperpalatable foods that are packed full of omega-6 fats and refined sugar. That's what the majority of people are eating. If you look at food survey data from NHANES, you see the most of the population, they're getting like 75% of their calories from refined carbohydrates and polyunsaturated omega-6 fats. So to me, obesity being like, it was something like, if you pool all the studies together, like 85% of severe COVID-19 outcomes came, like in the ICU visits and stuff, came from obese individuals, obese populations. So to me, that's a reflection of, all of these things are a reflection of what people wrongfully call inflammatory lifestyles. It's really reactive oxygen species and lifestyles that promote oxidative damage, okay, and that don't support endogenous antioxidant production. So we have an imbalance. We have a high demand for antioxidants and a high amount of damage from all of these damaging lifestyle factors, nutritional factors, and alcohol and whatnot. So all these things that have been shown to be directly correlated with COVID-19 outcomes, they are all things that directly burden our antioxidant system that handles the reactive oxygen species. People, there's a lot of talk nowadays about omega-6 and vegetable oils. Lipid peroxidation is a mechanism. So it is really a battle between our body's antioxidant defenses and immune system, which are two separate things that work together in synergy, and they're the burden of stress and damage on the other side. And so we have a war going on inside of ourselves. How robust is our antioxidant system and our immune system, and how much damage do we have from our diet, our lifestyle, the pathogens, and our lack of adaptation to stressful situations, right? And so the person who has the most antioxidant status, glutathione robustness, immune system adaptation built up over the years, the most adaptation, the most robust antioxidant immune system, the person has the most robust systems and the least amount of damage coming in. That's the person who's not going to have severe outcomes. To me, that's the equation. I focused on natural immunity. I was like, all right, give me the COVID, please, is what I did at first. And mind you, I was being very, very careful with my family members, with my clients, and everything. I wasn't even working in personal training for the first 6 months. I don't even think I was accepting clients during that time. I was working security during that time. And I wasn't sleeping much at all, by the way. Okay, I'm going to get into that later. I'm going to get into all the things that people focus on that don't fucking mean jack shit in the grand scheme of shit. The grand scheme of things, I'm going to get into that in a bit. But, yeah, I was trying really, really hard to get COVID as fast as possible so that I could build natural immunity. While at the same time not putting any of my clients I didn't have clients until like later on in 2020, but not putting any of my family or anyone into jeopardy, right? But yeah, so I didn't take a lot of precautions outside of what was mandatory. And yeah, I got no symptoms. Everyone else is getting symptoms. There were people I was rolling with in jiu-jitsu that were like, wearing a mask, and they insisted they didn't have COVID and that they tested, but they were sick and had a cold or allergies. It's just allergies, bro, with the sniffles and coughs. I'm like, all right, whatever. And yeah, I never got symptoms, never got vaccinated, never got symptoms. And then when I did start working at a commercial gym and doing personal training, the only clients that tested positive, 10 out of 12 had no negative symptoms. And the only ones who did have negative symptoms, the 2 out of 12, they weren't following my nutrition program. So I think it was my fearlessness. I think it was my exposure to all these people and all these germs and stuff from all these different people. And then it was the low glycemic load in my diet, the low omega-6. But there was a point in time where I was eating a lot of pork, a lot of fatty pork, and still didn't have any issues. Also, the more body fat you have, the more omega-6 in your adipose tissue. And I posted a research review in 2021 on Instagram discussing omega-6 to omega-3 index in adipose tissue. There's a study, actually. It was a pilot study that was comparing it and showing that there seems to be a correlation between the amount of omega-6 to omega-3 in the fat tissue and ICU visits or something. So that was an interesting study. That's really hard to study because the test is so obscure and costs a lot of money, and it's hard to give, thousands of people with COVID that are hospitalized the omega-3 index test. But that evidence does exist, and yeah, magnitude effect wasn't very high. It was a weird study. But anyway, where was I getting with that? My point is, I wanted to build natural immunity, and I wanted to avoid all the freaking nutrition factors and other things that damage my cells, reactive oxygen species that contribute to oxidative damage, or what people call inflammation, while maximizing the things that build robustness. So hormesis, all the things that build hormesis. We're talking about physical activity and vigorous exercise, certain polyphenols like epicatechin gallate, for example, maybe curcumin for turmeric, maybe, and stuff like that. Coffee polyphenols like caffeoleic acid, caffeoleic acid, and ginsenosides from ginseng, and, polysaccharides and stuff from freaking reishi. All of these things, they damage your body in the short term and cause your glutathione to start to upregulate and become more powerful, so that if your immune system doesn't fully neutralize a threat in time, and you have all this inflammation and oxidative damage in the system, you have your antioxidant system that can go through and neutralize it in a short amount of time, so that you only experience mild symptoms for a couple days. That's, to me, what's going on. You build your immunity through natural immunity and adapting your immune system to recognize a wide variety of different strains of the threat. And it becomes very well adapted, the same way that a variety of exercises in the gym gives your body a wide base of adaptation so that it can better deal with it next time it sees the same stressor. You become very powerful at adapting to these things. And so also giving your body the glycine, the amino acids that it needs, not limiting protein, getting at least 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight in grams of protein from whole animal protein sources, so you get the B vitamins and cofactors necessary. Maybe consuming a little extra vitamin C on the side, because vitamin C has some unique benefits for recycling glutathione, and also directly neutralizes free radicals as well. I think there was a point where I was telling people to supplement with 1 gram of vitamin C a day just to be safe. And then, removing high glycemic load carbohydrates and limiting your carbohydrate load to under 80 grams of total carbohydrates per day. And then what else? So vitamin D, making sure your vitamin D status is up to par. I think there were some other things too, but those are the main things. If you want more glutathione status and more robustness, because these polyphenols work kind of like strength training for your antioxidant system. Adaptogenic herbs. The main mechanism of adaptogens is they contain these polyphenol substances like ginsenosides and we already named them, right? That actually strengthen your body's defenses over time, strengthen your adaptive processes over time, and make your body have a more robust adaptive response to its environmental stressors over time. To me, that was the most powerful thing. And like, if you really want to invest your money in something for prevention, I think adaptogenic herbs are the key, as long as you're doing the right ones, which a lot of people are not. For more information on that, definitely look into this. Ron Teagarden's work on tonic herbs. And then if you want to understand more about nutrition and its effects on reactive oxygen species, antioxidants, and making your body more robust, this is a really good read. Yes, it is about athletic performance, but it explains why ketones and carbohydrates role in the antioxidant systems and amino acid recycling, as well as neutralizing free radicals and things like that. So that's a very good read. Most people won't read it, though. Most people are just going to assume this is bullshit. So yeah, low glycemic load diet, polyphenols to build a robust glutathione response, but really not being scared of the virus, provided you're healthy enough to be able to defend against it, by the way. Building natural immunity, which for me, I haven't been vaccinated in probably 20 years, maybe. Last time I was vaccinated was probably forced by my mom and some doctors or something when I was like younger to get enrolled in school or something. But I had gotten exemptions time and time again. Because when I was a child, I was scared of needles. But definitely, yeah, over 15 years for sure. So I've been building immunity to these things for a long time. So it's not something you just jump into out of nowhere and decide you're going to build natural immunity. My body is obviously very, very robust. So building natural immunity by not being afraid of it. Doing exercise and training programs that are going to build that, robustness. Eating a diet that gives your body the building blocks it needs for, glutathione. Removing all the lifestyle factors that contribute to reactive oxygen damage and supposedly inflammation. So, and then supplementing with omega-3, even though that could potentially create some lipid peroxides and be counterproductive. Vitamin D status, vitamin C, N-acetylcysteine, all of those things I think are great. Taking some eleuthero or Siberian ginseng, I think is powerful. So, yeah, I mean, so another thing that I want to say on this is, during 2020, for me, career-wise was rough because I was working night shifts, security, and then some days in the mornings, I worked back-to-back. I would work like 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Security at a really bad area in town. And then I would go to my next shift, which was 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. or some shit. And I was working security all day, all night during the pandemic. I was not sleeping worth a damn, okay? And I didn't feel good a lot of that time. The only thing that got me through it, I think, was cordyceps or something. Some I was doing. And caffeine pills. So, yeah, and I was doing a lot of intermittent fasting during that time too. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me. All these people are you need to get sleep. It's vitally important for all that. And I just don't see any evidence that shows causation. If you're eating a lot of, damaging foods during your night shifts and sleep deprivation, that's what's going to contribute to obesity and everything else. But if you're not giving your body the calories to make you obese, or engaging in the factors that will hamper your immunity, sleep deprivation isn't going to have as big of an effect on your health as you think. And it's not good to purposely try to deprive yourself of sleep. But yeah, my experience during COVID, I was constantly sleep deprived and training my ass off, fasting, not eating a lot of carbs. Supposedly that's going to increase your cortisol and, supposedly have a negative effect on your hormones and a negative effect on immunity. I didn't have any of those problems, man. I think everyone else are self-fulfilling prophecy, man. They're noceboing themselves, to be honest. So I had, like, it's crazy. I hardly slept a lot of that time because I was working my ass off. Eventually, I started getting better sleep when I switched over to personal training and, nutrition coaching and stuff full time. But, and health consultations. But I was able to work my own hours and stuff and get more sleep. But, like, yeah, I just don't, so sleep is something that everyone puts a lot of stock in, and it's like you should try harder to get your nutrition on check, to eat the meat and fruit diet, to supplement with the right supplements that are actually going to help. I didn't do the zinc tablets. I didn't do elderberry. I didn't do vitamin C myself. Even though all the shelves were completely gone of like elderberry, vitamin C, freaking zinc tablets. I was laughing when I saw the supplement section and all of the supplements that people were buying out of stock. I was laughing my ass off. I'm like, bro, how can so many people be deceived? The freaking probiotic supplement was completely gone. There were like even the cheapest, most inefficient probiotic supplements were gone off the shelves. It is very clear people were just completely uninformed and just like buying all these crazy things that don't matter. For me, the only thing I was looking for was garlic. I had to go to an Indian market to buy the garlic because all the garlic was gone at my local grocery store. Because for me, at the time, I knew garlic, anytime I had a viral infection, any kind of bacterial infection or anything like that, raw garlic, if you prepare it properly, which most people don't, chop it up fresh, raw, you know what I mean? Crunch it up and eat it, chew it up in your mouth. That will kill off anything if I really needed something to kick my ass if I got something. But I never had symptoms, so the garlic kind of just rotted in my my pantry and smelled up the whole house after a while. It was pretty bad. I literally bought like $50 worth of garlic. It was crazy. Didn't have to use it though because I'm doing everything else right. But yeah, everyone else are like, man, we need probiotics, we need sleep. If God forbid we lose some sleep because we're actually being a productive member of society. You know what I mean? People are like, I can't be stressed no matter what. Don't want to overtrain. I can't eat animal protein. Animal protein's gonna freaking rot and it's bad for me and it has all these negative effects. And for me, I skip over all the bullshit. And I'm like, actually, motherfucker, if you literally just eat mostly meat, moderate the amount of high glycemic load carbs you're eating, and then just give your body the building blocks of the immune system, give the building blocks of your antioxidant system, lower the amount of reactive oxygen species, engage in hormetic activities, eat some hormetic polyphenols, expose yourself to a wide variety of pathogens on a regular basis like we have evolved to do for so long. And then there's another thing. One more thing is, so a lot of these pandemics that they claim were solved with vaccination, there is evidence that it was actually vitamin A and vitamin D in a certain form that was being deprived of the population at the time that made the outbreak, that triggered the outbreak ultimately. And then when they started to, for example, one population, I don't remember what it was, if it was whooping cough or something, was able to be neutralized with cod liver oil or something. And there was this great controversy that people have forgotten at the time, that have forgotten since then, because it was swept under the rug by authorities. But vitamin A and vitamin D seem to be a primary variable in your immunity. So I'm just going to put that there. Chris Masterjohn had an entire lecture and presentation that was on his paid website for a while that explained it in depth and the history of these things. And it was mind-blowing. And I'm just like, man, I don't even want to think about these things anymore because like 95% of the population is so far gone and brainwashed that no matter how many facts you present, no matter how clear of a case you present, they're just too far gone to be persuaded and think and be more skeptical. They can't even question the authority. Although it's happening, things have been getting so ridiculous, and the red flags and a lot of the things the government says versus what actually happens, it's been so glaringly obvious that I'm noticing people are starting to wake up, actually, especially with some certain, major lawsuits and things, major suicides. You know who I'm talking about, and major scandal busts with high level profile people. You know what I'm talking about? It was like swept under the rug and whatnot. Yeah. Lots of people, it's funny, they're like, they notice it, just they don't see anything about it. And then when I mention it to them, like, hey, whatever happened to that person, you know what I'm talking about? Whatever happened to that case? You don't see anything about it on social media, right? When's the last we heard about that, right? And then they're like, oh yeah, no, I was wondering, yeah, that is weird, isn't it? Yeah, now that you mention it, I did notice that. It's like, how are these people not make that so significant? Yet everything that CNN feeds them is like at the center of their attention, and their fucking emotion centers are going off. But yet the things that really matter, that would blow their mind wide open, right? Like, whoa, I'm just eating meat. I'm not spending millions of dollars on fucking, pounds of plant foods and fake meats and all this other crazy shit. How can I survive without vitamin C? Ooh. Or like, I didn't get vaccinated and I'm not dead. Ooh. I did all the opposite things that they told me to do, and I actually came out better because of it. Wow. Everyone else is like drinking the Kool-Aid. Drinking the Kool-Aid, and completely oblivious and naive to the shit's going on in the back. It's crazy, man. So I don't know. That's why I don't talk about it, and also because I don't want to get censored. So yeah, man. I didn't do zinc. I didn't sleep much. Didn't do probiotics. So I don't know. Hopefully all this stuff makes sense. This is how I survived COVID, never died, never got any severe symptoms, survived an outbreak in a gym where it was implied that I had that I had gotten positive tests, but then another week later I tested negative. So, I posted multiple research reviews. After a while I got tired of fucking posting it. People didn't seem to care. And the research became so obvious to me at a certain point. It's like... people still eating their donuts, still eating their tacos, still doing their fucking, drinking their sodas and sweet tea. Not giving a shit about their health, but freaking out emotionally about COVID. Like, what the fuck, man? And then after they got all the vaccinations, then they started to admit, yeah, I think this is kind of bullshit. They started to open up. But now it's too late, so... Yeah, and one more thing, I did notice, and I don't know what, especially bodybuilders over the last 2 years, if you notice all of the high level athletes that, they dropped dead suddenly and had some kind of blood clot, like thrombosis or, some kind of blood clot induced disease where they just dropped dead out of nowhere. All in people who were vaccinated. Does that kind of catch other people off guard? Like I see all these people who are like, all these bodybuilders dropping dead and all this other stuff. It's such a tragedy and whatnot. And then their conclusion is that working out and training isn't necessarily healthy. It's like, well, obviously a lot of them are on steroids, but a lot of it has to do with maybe something else. Something else might be contributing, right? So anyway, yeah, lots of people have mentioned it to me and probably unsubscribed from me because I just ignored it. But yeah, it's pretty obvious that if there is a conspiracy going on, they're wanting to centralize the food supply, centralize the corporate kind of hierarchy. All the websites that you visit are going to be coming from one centralized area, one centralized place, centralized food supply. They want to get rid of all this all the local farmers, want to get rid of all the small businesses, want to get rid of The alternative health people want to get you reliant upon one pharmaceutical system, one medical system, one financial kind of, money system. I think all of that's true. If anything, right? If anything. So I don't know what the solution is. So, for me, I don't think freaking making videos about it is going to help persuade anyone on the other side. So for me, I put my faith in my spiritual practice of the powers in your focus and what you focus on. So I believe what you focus on grows. So I'm focusing on the things that matter, that will help me flourish in life. And whatever other people choose to focus on, I can't help them. But if they really want to rise above all that other stuff, their focus will bring them there. They will search for the answers themselves. And no matter what videos I make, there's other people who have talked extensively about this. I found all of this information my fucking self and pieced it all together to find what works. And so if other people want to find it, they'll find it. But if they don't want to find it and they listen to my fucking video talking about, yeah, I never got COVID, rah, 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 they're going to listen to my shit and be like, you're a quack. Yeah, well, just you wait. Or like, you're lucky, or you're irresponsible, or they can come with you're putting people at risk. So look, people are so emotionally manipulated and controlled. No logic is going to help them. So, yeah. So yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah. There's a reason why I haven't made videos, and it's mainly the censorship. Made videos on this subject, but the other reason is it's not going to help people. People are crazy, man. People are freaking crazy. They don't want to hear the solution a lot of time. They want excuses as to why they don't need to put effort into their health. So, and I think that's a large reason why public health, they try to come up with other solutions because people are so addicted. If you actually tell, like, how many people, this is the other thing, why I'm kind of also not entirely putting all my weight into conspiracy theory to that degree, I guess, is like, how many fucking people do you know, average population, that if they really wanted to improve their health, okay, and they really wanted to prevent COVID with nutrition and exercise, how many people would be willing to do the protocol I'm talking about? I can tell you, I've had so many people that are paying me to try to help them lose body fat, and they can't even do a simpler program and just remove the freaking refined foods from their diet. So, yeah, anyway, leave your question and comments down below. Let me know if you watched this whole video down in the comments. Put a comment that says, reactive oxygen species is the cause. To let me know that you've actually watched the whole video. I got the hiccups. And I got to prepare I got a whole another couple hours of training clients, and then I'm going to be on my way to jiu-jitsu. But leave me comments in the comment section with your experiences. Did you have any negative or positive experiences? What did you do to overcome COVID? Let me know. I want to know what was your experience. And I'll talk to y'all next time.